I guess the beginning of the story is Bains and I decided that we were going to start a family. So I had what that would look like planned out all in my head. We had been married about 5 years and we were both practicing law.
We were both kind of in the midst of career, but knew that it was time to start a family, and that was the plan, and it shifted.
When we went to our 20-week ultrasound, what I had planned in my head and sort of the vision of what our family would look like came crashing down. The thought of something being wrong never even crossed my mind.
We were told that there was something going on with the baby, and really weren't told in Birmingham what was the actual diagnosis. And so we're referred to a maternal fetal medicine doctor who had an office in Birmingham, so that was great. Well, that day he happened to be working in Huntsville. We decided to just jump in the car and drive. And I remember driving to Huntsville in Kelly's car. I can still remember the suit and tie that I had on that day, and going to that doctor's appointment, and the whole way up there going, well, whatever happens, we'll be able to deal with it and figure it out.
The initial diagnosis was perhaps spina bifida. And so of course you immediately go on your phone and Google what all that entails. And I can remember us having a conversation in the car about, okay, how are we going to put a wheelchair ramp in our house? How are we going to make this house work? The thought of there being anything more severe than that didn't really cross my mind at that point in time. We were told that our son, we found out at that time that it was a boy, had a condition called holoproencephaly, which is a brain defect, or his brain didn't fully form or develop.
I think the words that were used were, the condition is not compatible with life. It was shock, but at the same time just disbelief that that is a thing, or that, I'd never heard of holoproencephaly and never, known anybody who'd experienced something like that. And so we were by ourselves in Huntsville and had to figure out a way to come back to Birmingham. I went to work the next day.
I think I did too.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just our personalities or what. I think being around, sitting around the house was not what either one of us needed. And I actually had a deposition out of town that day. Remember driving down to Clayton that morning and going to this deposition, and I remember being on a lunch break, and there was a little field outside, sort of an undeveloped area next to the parking lot. My car was parked nearby, and I remember just standing in the middle of that undeveloped dirt area and just bawling my eyes out and screaming and cursing and yelling at God, and I mean just every emotion that I had just poured out of me in that moment. I'll never forget exactly where I was and where I stood, and every time I drive down I-65, I past that exit and know where I was standing.
Fast forward a couple of weeks later, and on Sunday morning, I'm walking up to Canterbury, and guess who's greeting me as the greeter at the front door? The same doctor. So that was just amazing in and of itself, and just a huge comfort in a way, and relief in a way, and just really God's hand at work, I think.
Kelly was still pregnant, and the process of all of this was that Kelly was going to carry the baby until it was time to go into labor, and we didn't know what the outcome was going to be throughout that process. We were told that there may be a doctor's appointment we go in and there's not a heartbeat, or that we would go into labor and he wouldn't survive labor, or there was the chance that Kelly would go into labor and the baby would be born alive. And the continual every single day kind of not knowing, that was hard in some ways, because it was just a total unknown. But I think it also gave us time, and maybe it was God's way of giving us time to kind of process what was happening with us and what would ultimately happen with William. The ability to kind of be preparing ourselves, I think in some ways was a blessing.
At 37 weeks, we went in for the doctor's appointment, and he still had a heartbeat, which was just amazing, really, because that was not what everyone expected would happen. You know, for 17 weeks, I had been getting bigger and bigger and carrying this child that I had grown to love, but I knew that my time with him would be very limited. We were able to induce labor with the hope that once he was born, we would be able to spend some time with him. And that's exactly what happened. You know, we got to spend some minutes with him, with just us, before he passed away. You know, got to love on him a little bit, you know, rock him, both hold him. Just like every other mom, I wanted to be able to hold my baby and spend time with him and love on him and give him kisses and tell him how much he meant to me. And the fact that we were able to do that was pretty amazing. You know, I didn't get to do the traditional things that you do when you have a baby, and that, you know, I didn't have a baby shower and I wasn't planning a nursery or things like that, but I did get to do a few, at least things that I felt would be special for him. We got a couple of blankets with his name on them, and a little outfit for him. So we, you know, were able to have those things at the hospital. Bains read the 23rd Psalm, which he has read for every other, we now have 2 little girls. So my journey was not over after that one experience, but he read that Psalm when all of them were born.
Right, and that's because that's what my father read when my brother and I were both born. And so that was important to me to, you know, to carry on that tradition. That was what I'd always planned to do, and so was able to continue that with him, and then have continued it with the other, with the girls as well.
One of the things that we did do was have a photographer come in and take a couple of pictures of us with William. And really that was, that spun out of Canterbury. What amazes me most about those pictures is when you go back, and I go back now and I look at them, and we're smiling. And that's really hard for me to get my head around, because, you know, we were experiencing what was one of the worst, well, at the time was the worst day of our lives, and I guess to date is probably one of the worst days of our lives. But there was joy in it. I mean, I can't explain it other than really feeling the love and the support from our friends and our family, and just the hand of God on me. But, you know, grief is a funny thing, and it takes many forms. I feel like when I was going through it, in a lot of ways I felt very alone. I didn't know anybody who had lost a child. You know, I couldn't tell you anybody who had had that experience. But now that we're sort of on the other side of it, you know, it certainly has given us an opportunity to speak with others who are going through something similar.
His name is William Miller Bains Fleming IV. I'm William Miller Bains Fleming III. I always knew, despite whatever Kelly may have been nudging me otherwise, that the first son we had, I would pass along the name. We talked about it, you know, and Kelly said, you know, you don't have to do that. My dad said, you don't have to do that. But I knew that he was my firstborn son, and no matter what, he's always my firstborn son. And he's always a part of who I am. And so he needed to have the name. You know, it's a name that that our daughters know and talk about all the time. You know, I was forced to plan my child's funeral. Fortunately, we had some great family connections, and then we're able to talk to folks at Canterbury about the columbarium, and that became the right spot for us. And so that's where he is, here at the church, and it's in some ways been a great way to keep him a part of our family and our story. You know, our story didn't didn't begin with William and doesn't end with William. He's a part of the story of our family, and we're able to come and go down to the columbarium and see his spot almost every week that we're at church. Sometimes we sneak up here at other times when we need to have some quiet time or celebrate his birthday every year up here. It's just another way that that this place is a part of our lives as family.
When we were going through this journey and this experience, there is absolutely no way I could have gotten up and put one foot in front of the other every day had it not been for our church family and our friends, and particularly our Sunday school class. I mean, they wrapped us with love and support and friendship, I mean, more than I've ever seen. I mean, it certainly is the greatest example of God's love in my life to date. And so when it came time to decide, you know, where we going to bury him, I mean, Canterbury was just the natural spot. It's a place that we love. It's a place that we come to. You know, it just sort of, it's a place that supported us and lifted us, and it just sort of fit. The other thing I'll say about that is, you know, it is really amazing to me what a difference love and support with a church family can make. And even to this day, there are friends in our Sunday school class that every year on his birthday text me or call me or send me a message. And as a mom, I think the only thing you want for your kids, is for their life to have meaning and purpose. And you know, even though he didn't live as long as we had hoped, you know, having a reminder every year from our friends that, you know, his life had meaning, his life was not forgotten, you know, his life, albeit short, had a purpose. I mean, that means the world to me, and there's nothing else more that I would want for my children, even now, my two girls. So, you know, that support system has just been amazing, and really, it got me through the journey and continues to get me through the journey every day.